Camp. I'm a program manager for Clark County's Community Planning Department, and I'm here just to get things started this afternoon. For those of you new to the building, just a few housekeeping. If you need to use the restroom, just follow the signs down the hall and around the corner. Otherwise, we're going to get started here. We're going to have 3 presentations and a Q&A session following. So now I'm going to pass it over to Clark County's County Manager, Kathleen Otto, to kick us off. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Jackie. It's just a quick question. Is this on CBTV? And if so, do we need to provide notice?
Yes, they are live now.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us to begin the Growth Management Act's periodic update process. Today we have members of the Clark County Council, representatives from our local cities, the Planning Commission, county staff, and the public in attendance. We do appreciate you all taking the time today to join us. It is now my pleasure to introduce the keynote speaker today, Dave Anderson. Dave serves as the Managing Director for the Growth Management Services Unit at the Washington State Department of Commerce. He has been with Commerce since 2001, starting as the agency's transportation policy specialist. Dave has served as an adjunct lecturer in the Urban and Regional Planning Program at Eastern Washington University and is the past president of the Inland Empire section of the American Planning Association. Upon moving to Growth Management Services, Dave managed the agency's last review and update of its Washington Administrative Code for implementing the Growth Management Act. In 2010, Dave was awarded the Washington APA's Meyer-Wolf Award for Professional Achievement for his work on the WAC update. Dave was also the principal author in the 2012 update to the department's Transportation Element Guidebook. Prior to joining Commerce, he spent 7 years as a transportation planner at Pierce Transit. Dave holds a master's in urban and regional planning from the University of Iowa and a bachelor's degree in planning from Augusta, and my apologies if I misrepresented that name, University in Sioux Falls. Dave lives with his wife and 2 children in Spokane. Again, thank you all for joining us today, and I will hand this over to Oliver Urjaco, our Clark County Community Planning Director. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine, and also I would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone. My name is Oliver Urjaco, Community Planning Director for Clark County. I would briefly like to introduce other staff with Dave, who are very kind to join Mr. Dave Anderson to be with us this afternoon. Let me start with Catherine McCoy, a Senior Planner with the Washington Department of Commerce. As a regional planner in Growth Management Services, she provides technical assistance to jurisdictions in Southwest Washington on permitting urban design and form-based codes. And Kathleen provides is partners with the American Planning Association and Planning Association of Washington to provide the Southwest Washington Planners Forum, which some of us, my staff, do attend. And she also specializes in quarterly meeting with sharing information among state and local planners on nationally recognized planning trends and topics. Kathleen has served or worked in planning and land use development for 15 years, specializing in regulatory development, permitting, and design review. This includes experience in neighborhood planning, historic preservation, and current planning. She has served on local governments in Olympia and Seattle, Washington, as well as Bozeman, Montana. Kathleen has a Bachelor's of Science in Geography with a minor in Political Science from Montana State University in Bozeman, Montana, and a master's degree in urban planning from the University of Washington in Seattle. Ted, some of you know Ted. Ted is one of land use program manager who just recently took a position with Commerce, but he's also joining us today. So welcome, Dave, welcome, Catherine, and welcome again, Ted. We also have our senior deputy attorney, Ms. Christine Cook, who will also be giving a presentation with us and will be available to answer questions. I don't know everyone that is in the audience, but you are welcome. I see our chief prosecuting attorney here with us. If I mispronounced that title, forgive me, but Leslie Lopez is here, and I also see our newly elected councillor, Sue Marshall, who's representing the 5th District here. If I miss any elected official, please pardon me. We will give you opportunity during question and answers to participate as we proceed. So with that, let me turn it over to Mr. Dave Anderson. I cannot thank him enough for being here to kick this off planning process with us. So Dave, I'll pass it on to you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Oliver, members of the council and members of the commission and city council members. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come speak with you today. You're at the start of the periodic update process, and this is the start of a conversation where we're looking forward to working with you in this process. Today, I'd like to go over some of the basics, some of the most critical elements that you're going to go through, and my hope is to leave you with a good understanding of the process overall and some critical tools to help you get started in the process in the right direction. So, as you've heard, I'm Dave Anderson. I'm the Managing Director of the Growth Management Program at the Department of Commerce. Department of Commerce, we touch on every aspect of the community, including things like housing, infrastructure, and economic development. We work closely with local governments, civic leaders, and others to strengthen communities. And for all of us at Commerce, local governments are one of our most important implementation partners. And our programs support our partners as they work through many of our shared goals. And I'm so thankful for the work that you've done and so thankful for the strong partnership that we have with the county and the cities in Clark County. So I'm going to start with talking about, can you go next? I'm sorry, I'm not advancing my slides here. The next one. There we go. So I'm going to start with talking about why you would want to have a plan in the first place. What's the whole point of planning? These are some of the reasons why I think it's important for a community to have a plan. The first one is that you're making decisions that are going to last a long time. Land use decisions are largely permanent decisions. And also, many individuals and organizations are going to have to work together. You also need a plan when that happens. And you need a plan when you're going to try to accomplish something that's going to require persistent effort over a long period of time. You're going to be working with making investments in infrastructure that has long lead times and that lasts a long time and has a long payback period. And lastly, the public expects fairness and transparency in local decisions about land use. And the planning process, as you'll hear later, is really fundamental to providing that kind of fairness and transparency that citizens in a democracy expect. Next slide. So now I'd like to talk about some of the features that really make a plan a good plan. What does a plan have to really be a good one? And there are 3 specific things a plan must be. It has to be compelling, it has to be specific, and it has to be realistic, okay? It has to be compelling enough that it really represents where the community wants to go. You'll find this in the vision, you'll find this in the goals and policies. That's where we're trying to get to. The plan must articulate a compelling vision for the future. Second, it must be realistic. It must be grounded in enough empirical fact that you understand what you have to work with. And lastly, it must be specific enough that you know how you're going to achieve it and whether or not you're actually implementing it or not. If you've never said no because something in your plan didn't agree with what you wanted to do, your plan's probably not specific enough, okay? Plans help you make tough decisions and helps make sure that you're making those decisions in a way that is moving you toward a goal, sometimes a goal that you may not live to see. But that's the purpose of a good plan, okay? You know it's a good plan not by looking back 20 years from the future. You know it's a good plan because it's helping you make good decisions today. If I had to describe good planning in 2 words, these would be those words: disciplined imagination. That's the plan. That's planning in a nutshell. Next slide. So every state in America has got a land use planning framework. Okay, local governments are creatures of state law. Planning is largely governed by local governments. So the state planning framework is largely what governs planning in America. And every state operates a little bit differently. Across the border in Oregon, it works a little differently. Across the border from where I live in Idaho, it works a little differently. But Washington this is Washington's planning framework. We've got the Growth Management Act. That sits within the other planning laws in Washington state, things like the Subdivision Act, the Shoreline Management Act, the Local Project Review Act. Those sit within lots of other laws that govern how cities and counties work, govern things like annexation, govern things like taxation, property tax allocation, and all those sit within the framework of both the state and the federal constitution. So all this together constitutes the laws that govern planning in Washington. And the Growth Management Act, I work for the Growth Management Program, and there's the Growth Management Act, which is 3670A, but that's not the whole picture. And oftentimes, although there's a piece of law called the Growth Management Act, most of the time when you hear people talking about the Growth Management Act, think about it not in terms of that law, think about it in terms of the whole enchilada, the whole framework is really, that's usually what we're working within. Next slide. And every planning framework, there's a couple of things that need to be balanced. There are two expectations that the public has of the planning process. And if you've been in local government any length of time, you've probably heard both of these. First one is, this affects my home, this affects my neighborhood. I should have a say in what happens. An expectation that the process involves a broad array of participants, that it is a deliberative process, that it takes into account lots of different perspectives. That's one expectation. The other expectation is, I just need to get my permit. Tell me what I need to do. I need to have certainty. I need to have finality. And these two goals exist in tension. And one of the things that your planning laws need to do is try to resolve this tension, okay? And Washington has taken a particular approach to how we resolve this tension. And it relates to the comprehensive planning and the development regulations, the legislative decisions that city councils and county commissioners make. What are the rules? And then the other one is related to local project review. How do we review project permit applications when they hit the permit counter? In Washington, the planning process, the legislative decisions, okay, the laws very heavily favor a broad array of participation in a very deliberative process. But once those decisions are made and you get to the local project review stage, Washington law very heavily favors finality and certainty and timelines, okay, very heavily favors having a certain predictable permit process. That means that a lot of decisions that may be in a different planning framework could easily be sort of kicked down the road and revisited in local project review. Washington does not allow a lot of those fundamental decisions, like whether this is the right density, whether this is the right use, is this really where we want a subdivision to go? Washington law does not allow you to revisit those decisions when the permit hits the counter. A lot of that stuff, there's a lot more work that needs to be done up front, because once those decisions are made, they can't be revisited. So that's a particular feature of Washington's framework, and when you see things move forward, keep that in mind. Next slide. So Washington's planning law doesn't vary or doesn't apply the same across the state, and you'll see here there's roughly about 5 different flavors of GMA when you look at all the requirements read together. The larger metro counties have a significantly more robust planning framework than the smaller rural counties do. And over time, sort of the difference between what a small rural county has to do and what a big metro county has to do, over time that gap has grown. There have been more requirements on the larger counties, and the amount of requirements that apply to the smaller counties have tended to go down. So there's quite a bit of difference in how the GMA actually applies. And one of the requirements, next slide, one of the requirements that we have that really what brings us here today is the requirement that you have a periodic update. Once you've adopted your plan, it doesn't sit on the shelf, okay? There's a requirement that every 10 years you have to go back and review your plan and then, if necessary, revise and update your plan. So what are you revising it against? You're revising it against two basic things. The first one is, have there been any changes in state law since we last adopted our plan that we haven't folded into our plan and development regulations? That's the first thing, okay, changes in law. The second thing that you're reviewing it against is on-the-ground facts, okay? Have the facts on the ground changed since our last plan was adopted, okay? You're going to get a new forecast from OFM with a new population target, okay? You had a 20-year time horizon on your plan 10 years ago. Your periodic update is the point where you reset the clock for the next 20 years. You look back at what capital facilities you've built, which ones you thought you were going to build that you didn't build, how the market has responded in terms of growth to the plan you adopted last time, considering whether the growth strategy you set last time is actually playing out the way you assumed it would when you adopted that plan. These are all the relevant facts, okay? So you're also reviewing your plan to see whether things have turned out the way we thought, and if not, what are we going to do different? So those are the two big things that define the periodic update. It's not just another annual amendment process. It is a much more complete review, because you're not looking and you're not essentially making a legislative decision just on those things that are in front of you, but you're making legislative decisions on things that may not necessarily be in front of you, but are a logical extension of either a duty to revise it to deal with new statutory changes, or changes in on-the-ground facts. Next slide. So here's a quick look at some of the most recent changes to the GMA. Last session was a big session. We're thinking this session might be a big one too. But this is an example of some of the changes that have happened just in the last year to the RCW. So these are the kind of new statutory changes that you'll be looking at. And one practice tip on some of these when you're doing your update, we'll talk a little bit later about the checklist that we have that local governments can use. So, next slide. This is the overall process for the periodic update. So the first thing you do, really, and this is a really important step, create a work program to sort of plan out what kind of staff level work needs to occur. How many planning commission meetings do you have between now and when the update process finally ends? In some ways, that might be the most critical resource to manage, is how much time. We can hire planning consultants. You can't hire another planning commission. Okay, so think about how many meetings you have and fit that into your work, but have a good work program. Once you've done that, develop a community engagement plan, stuff like what we're doing today. City-county collaboration, do the review then of your existing regulations, talk about data gathering, start the EIS process, and you can see more. I hope you can read those as you move through some of these. You'll be doing staff reports, you'll be issuing public notices, you'll ultimately make a SEPA determination, you'll be setting that to Commerce for 60-day notice, then you'll be adopting the final one. And I've got a few of these in particular I want to highlight. Can you hit the next slide? Oh, no, it's showing. Go back. Right. So the first one, the review of the existing document, okay? One of the things we have available for local governments to use is we have a periodic update checklist, okay? When you're reviewing your plan and when you're reviewing your development and regulations, we really encourage you to use that checklist. It's really important to help you make sure you're not missing a spot. There's going to be a lot of big ticket items that you're going to be spending a lot of time talking about. The checklist will help make sure little things don't slip through the cracks. Second one is the adoption of the plan and regulations. So one of the things that's really critical when you're doing your adoptions associated with the periodic update process is your public notice and the recitals in the adopting ordinance need to specify that this is part of the periodic update process, okay? It needs to say that in the ordinance or resolution. If the county is ever challenged, one of the things that the Growth Management Hearings Board will use to determine whether something was or wasn't part of the update process is what they're going to look at. They're going to want to look at the public notice. Did you tell anyone that this was part of the update process? And they're going to look at the final adopting ordinance or resolution. Okay, make sure it specifies that this is part of the periodic update. And last one, when you finish the process, we really encourage, I mean, we'll be working with you throughout the process, but we really encourage that you send us a formal written notice that our city or our county considers the update process complete. One of our duties as a state agency is to keep track of who's finished the update process and who hasn't finished the update process. And it's not our decision as to whether your update is complete. That's your decision. But we really ask you, and we really strongly advise that when you do decide, yeah, we're done, this is it, that you notify us so we can mark you as complete on our list. Next slide. So the decisions you're making at any one time in the planning process, they're not one decision. They're always a set of nested decisions. Okay, so they build on the work that's already happened, and they build to the work that you're doing forward. One of the things that we often hear as a frustration from members of the public when they come to talk about a planning process is, why are we talking to you about that decision was already made? You've already made up your mind on what you're going to do. I bet you've heard that before if you've been to a public hearing or two. Okay, there's a little bit of truth to that every time. Why? Because no decision is never made in a vacuum. So it's always important to remember, okay, what is this decision that we're actually making today? Okay, what kind of discretion is the governing body actually exercising, and what things have already been decided? What's already been set in motion, or what is a decision that was made by the legislature or some other organization, or what decision just naturally falls out of facts? There's only so much money, okay? Those kind of things. So keep that in mind. But they'll fall into a process. In your process for this periodic update, you're going to be talking about countywide planning policies. You're going to be doing allocation of the growth target. You're going to need to do different kinds of analysis, like a housing needs analysis or a land capacity analysis. You're going to be developing an overall growth strategy for how we're going to make sure that we have the land capacity and the development capacity we need to accommodate the population that we think is going to come. And then you need to have your capital facilities plan to make sure that you have a financially realistic way to pay for the facilities and services that you need to make your growth strategy work. But these decisions are all nested decisions, okay? And they flow from each other. So the countywide planning policies, next slide. The countywide planning policies are where the city and the county work out a series of policies together that are going to govern how regional coordination occurs. So they'll cover things like how do we review the urban growth boundary? How do we set the growth targets? What does regional transportation planning look like? How are we going to manage essential public facilities, those things that everyone needs but nobody wants to live next to? These are all the things that you will find in countywide planning policies. And that sort of forms the foundation for what moves forward. Next. Next slide. So the next thing that you'll need to do is you'll need to figure out how much population do we think is actually coming, okay? What's the control total we're going to be working for? When we're doing a 20-year plan for the community, what's the population? So Washington law requires that you use the OFM forecast as the basis for establishing your growth targets, okay? But the OFM forecast, it doesn't give you one number. It gives you a range of numbers. And the best way to think about a forecast is anywhere it falls along that line, that's not one number. That's always a probability distribution around that number, okay? So there's the high, there's the medium, and there's the low, okay? But when you actually look in the past, one of the things that's going to come up is, well, where do we fit within that range? How much, can we decide to go anywhere in that range? Is anywhere just fine? Well, as is true with most probability distributions, it's pretty close to the middle, all right? And if you really want to know how how much weight to give to the OFM forecast and that medium number, look to the forecasts from the past 20 years and what they told you about your population was going to be today. Every time I've looked at it, it's been within 1 or 2% of the OFM median. It's scary good. So there's a really big range that's specified in those numbers, but OFM median is actually really, really close most of the time. You're going to probably be within 1% of OFM median, so 1 to 2% of the OFM median. So I would strongly encourage that you start with that process. Don't spend a whole lot of time and avoid the edges of that. The other thing to remember about forecasts is, why do we forecast something to begin with? We forecast something because we can't control it directly, and it's going to affect the decisions we make. So when you're thinking about your forecast, think about that. It's not about deciding how much growth we want to come. That's not something we can control directly. That's why we use a forecast, okay? It's about figuring out what is most likely and working from there. Next slide. So these are some of the critical questions you're going to make of any forecast, okay? Are we asking, does it answer the right questions? What are the unstated assumptions? What's the range of foreseeable results? And then how do you manage that uncertainty, okay? Make sure you're using consistent assumptions across the plan. So if you figured out this is our growth strategy, make sure that you don't have one population that's covered in your land use element and another that you're using for your regional transportation plan. Make sure you're using consistent assumptions. Make sure you're checking back. Look back every 5 years ago to see if you're on track. These are the kind of things you can do to manage the uncertainty associated with any forecast. So, next slide. So the next step that you'll do once you've got your OFM, once you've got your forecast for the whole county, then the next question comes, well, where is that going to go? Okay, you need to get to an individual growth target for the county incorporated area and the individual cities then, okay? That's the target allocation process, where you take the overall number and determine, okay, what's going to be the growth target for Vancouver? What's going to be the growth target for Camas? That's the process that cities and counties go through when they're developing that, and that's where that final number comes from. You'll use that number then as the control total in what's called the housing needs analysis, where you determine how do we translate the population into dwelling units. And you look at things like, well, how many of the dwelling units we need, what's the balance of single family versus multifamily that we think we ought to need. That's the process of doing the housing needs analysis. Next slide. So something that's new this year, okay, and new for this update cycle, is the housing needs analysis. Your targets, they need to be sub-aggregated by price, by income band. So you need to make sure that you're not just planning for an overall number of housing units, but you need to make sure you're providing or you're planning for housing units at a variety of different income bands to make sure that everyone in the community has an opportunity for a home that they can afford. So that's an additional step that's now required with new changes to the housing element process. And this is something that every county in Washington is going to be going through now, is going to be making sure that your housing element is drilling down a little bit in terms of the type of housing that's being provided and who it's affordable for. Okay, Commerce is in the process right now of producing some preliminary allocations that counties and cities can use to this process to make, as a starting point. But this is the process that's coming along, and this is the first update cycle planning for housing affordability has to occur at this level. Next slide. The next part of the process then will be looking at your growth strategy. This is going to be a big part of what goes on when you're doing your environmental impact statement on your comprehensive plan update. And I'm going to give you a specific practice tip that's really critical when you're looking at your growth strategy. One of the things that's tempting to do when you're setting the alternatives is to set an alternative that's like a high growth, a medium growth, and a low growth alternative. That's a really tempting way to do it. The problem is you're going to spend a few $100,000 to tell you something I could tell her to tell you, all right? More growth means there's more impact, less growth means there's less impact. Not only does it tell you something that you already knew, but it's also setting alternatives you don't have that much control over. It's really fundamental that you take your, wherever you think your forecasted population is, and use that as the control total that represents the purpose and need, the reason why we're doing it, as they call it in SEPA land. So that your different alternatives are different ways of accommodating the same amount of growth, okay? That's a really important practice tip for making sure that when you do your environmental impact statement, it's actually getting at the policy choices you have and is actually drawing attention to the things that you can control directly. Next slide. So once you get into the development of a comprehensive plan, what does that comprehensive plan actually look like? This is what you'll find in a comprehensive plan. You'll find that there's different elements. These are the ones required in the Growth Management Act. And then within each one of those elements, you'll find there's things like goals and policies, all right? That's the compelling part of the plan. Then you'll find there's analytical work, the staff work, the things you pay the consultants all the big bucks to do, the inventories of things, all right, the inventory of the transportation system. Then you'll find an analysis and conclusions, okay? What level of service are we going to set? What are we going to need? What are the gaps between what we need and what we have? That's the next part of it, okay? And then the last part of it is the specific part, right? The strategies and commitments. What are we going to do to make sure, given what we know, how we achieve our objectives? So that's the strategies and commitments. And if you look to any one of the elements, you'll find this in the statute. This is the basic structure of it. Next slide. So this is what it looks like for capital facilities and transportation. You've got your inventory of what do we own, what do we need that other people own, what's our forecast? Okay, that's your transportation model. How much growth are we going to have? Where do we think it's going to go? Okay. What are we planning for? Then you've got your identification of system needs. That's where you look at what do we need to make sure we're investing in to continue to maintain the system we have? What do you need to correct any existing deficiencies, safety problems or environmental problems, chronic repair problems we have with our existing system? Okay, it's not related to any new growth, but we know we need to replace this bridge sometime, right? That's existing deficiencies. And then you've got what do we need to accommodate future growth, okay? Based on our growth strategy, based on what's in our land use element, what do we need to cover those bets, okay? That's the identification of system needs. And then the financing plan. How are we going to finance this? Given what we know today about our revenue, given the tax base that's represented by the new growth that's coming, do we have enough revenue to cover the facilities that we need, okay? And if not, there needs to be a feedback loop, not only back into the needs process, but it needs to go all the way back into the growth strategy process, okay? In many ways, you might find that the biggest control total on your growth strategy is not your OFM forecast, it's your ability to serve new areas. Next slide. So I want to talk a little bit about this. So let's imagine you've got a new area that you're building, okay? It represented by that big green square, okay? So you start building houses, maybe you build the gray one. Can you really tell the difference between the gray and the blue on there? Okay, let's start with every other one. Okay, those are gray. You start by building those, okay? What have you got to do to those? You've got to put the line in, okay? And that line represents the street. It also represents the water line, the sewer line, where the school buses are going to have to run. A lot of costs that the cities and counties have can be represented by that street in front of the house. So don't think it's just filling the potholes, it's the whole thing that's underneath that street, okay? So once you put in half of those houses, okay, you've already made those investments, right? So anything else you add along that line, the marginal cost of adding one more house along that line is substantially smaller than the marginal cost of building the road to the first place, okay? So that big box down at the end, that represents a retail establishment, okay? So that goes in, you've paid for the streets, you've paid for the sewer and the water to cover that, okay? Now, if that store closes, right, what happens to your cost? What happens to the cost for the sewer and the water and the streets? It doesn't change, right? Okay? The store's gone, right? The tax base is gone, but their costs are gone. Your costs are not, right? You've got the carrying costs on all that infrastructure. So when you're thinking about your growth strategy, think you don't buy cities by the house, you buy it by the acre, okay? The cost of accommodating a particular housing unit inside the area you've already made investments in sewer and water and roads is significantly smaller than the cost associated with adding new land to the urban area, okay? That's a significant difference in cost. And those costs represent risks, okay? And I think there's a common misconception oftentimes that when development comes in, that the development pays for everything, right? Most developers can't afford to pay for everything themselves, okay? They usually do require some partnership and investment just so it can be affordable. Otherwise, no one can afford to buy it. But even best case scenario, even if they did pay for the whole thing, remember, you now own it, right? That means you are responsible for maintaining it. You'll be ultimately responsible for replacing it. So a free road is not a free lunch. It's a free puppy, okay? That's yours now. So that's why it's so important. Remember back to my original presentation about the values, intention, and certainty and predictability? That means the best time for you to start asking yourself questions about whether or not you can pay for it and whether or not this is going to cover its cost is when you're looking at the comprehensive plan. Once you've made that decision, once the zoning is there, okay, that's largely an irreversible decision. You wrote a check for all the infrastructure associated with providing the adequate public facilities. So this is a slide. This is a graphic that a guy named Joe Minicosi did. He's probably one of the best consultants in the whole country looking at this issue. He did this for the city of Lafayette, Louisiana. Next slide. I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself. And it shows, okay, how many fire hydrants did they have per person in 1949? They had 2.4 fire hydrants, which they just used fire hydrants because it was easy to count. And it's a pretty good proxy for the size of your water system, okay? So they had 2.4 fire hydrants per person back in 1949. And remember, this was before World War II, before Fannie Mae, before massive state and federal infrastructure funding, back when everyone had to pay cash for stuff, okay? 2015, where they are today, they were wondering, why are we going broke? Why can't we afford our infrastructure, okay? The difference between growth of people and the growth of population. The growth, they now had 51.3 fire hydrants per person. That's how much faster the size of their infrastructure obligation grew relative to the size of their tax base. Okay, that was just a really good proxy for what that looks like. If you're really interested in digging into this stuff, go ahead and look at Urban 3. I'm not getting any advertising revenue from him. It's just some of the best work I've seen. But this is really an important thing to remember, okay? Understand the difference between fixed costs and marginal costs. Oftentimes we tend to use average costs, but what we really need to be paying attention to is marginal cost. What is the cost of the next unit given a specific location? What's it costing us to hold a piece of infrastructure even if no one's using it? And then what does it cost to extend something out from the urban edge? That's the extension costs. And all of these numbers are going to be really a little bit different. But some key, next slide. Here's some key things to remember, especially around capital facilities. Okay, make sure there's a good feedback loop between your capital facility planning process and your land use planning process and your approval process, okay? Make sure that you really understand and you're really paying attention to what it costs to serve and when new infrastructure is going to come online. The most important thing for an elected official is when they're thinking about planning, that you're not thinking like a regulator. You're thinking like an equity partner, okay? You own the infrastructure that's necessary to serve your community, okay? You need to be paying attention to what is the tax base that's coming back, and how does that compare to what the costs are going to be. The other thing to remember is when you're talking about demand of different things, okay, how people respond, location is as important as design. It's actually fundamentally more important from design. Generally speaking, when you're talking about funding, some quick rules of thumb, make sure you're funding maintenance on your existing system before you talk about adding to it. Talk about working out from the center, okay? Because then you're spending most of your money on things that probably you need to update anyway. Even if you have to upgrade a water line or a sewer line, if you're doing it in the old neighborhoods of town, that thing's probably 100 years old. You're going to have to replace that anyway, okay? So as long as you have to replace it, money spent on replacing it or upgrading it is not adding to your maintenance obligation. So work out from the center, favor upgrading versus adding new. And lastly, next slide. After this is all done, we then get into the process of implementing your comprehensive plan, both in your capital facility plans on an ongoing basis and in your development regulations and the way you administer those things. These are now the process of implementing their plans. Okay, and as you're working through, you'll need to make sure that your development regulations are consistent with and implement your plan. Next slide. So that's where we are. I'm going to leave you with some specific recommendations that I touched on today that I think are some of the most important things. If you only take a few things out of this, the first one, use the OFM medium, okay? Just using that, and will spend you a lot of time, will save you a lot of time arguing about where you should fall within the range. You'll be pretty close to dead on in 20 years, unless things got really weird. Second, when you're doing your alternatives analysis, make sure that your population and employment targets are the same across all three scenarios. And lastly, use your ability to adequately finance public facilities as a control total on your growth strategy, okay? You'll find out, start with the inventory, okay? Figure out where in my community I can already serve. I already have the infrastructure in place. And start with the question of, can I accommodate my growth target within the area I'm already serving, okay? Use that as a control total on your overall growth strategy. Make sure you can afford it. That will be, you'll be glad you did in 20 years, trust me. So with that, appreciate your time today. We're looking forward to working with you throughout the process. Catherine is going to be working with the county staff on an ongoing basis. We're only a phone call away, and I hope we get to keep working with you on this, and thank you again for having me here today.
Good afternoon. I'm Christine Cook. I'm a senior deputy prosecuting attorney at the Clark County, in the Clark County Civil Division of the Prosecutor's Office, and one of my clients is community planning. So I provide legal advice and representation in matters involving planning, and I was asked to, because my representation sometimes involves disputes, I was asked to speak about them. So that's what I'm doing. Next slide, please. This is what I'm going to talk about is mainly going to be about compliance with the requirements of state law and the implications of that. Clark County has certain obligations under the Growth Management Act and then related statutes and administrative rules that are promulgated by the state. And some of those very explicitly apply to Clark County. Clark County was one of the first counties that had to, because of its population and its growth rate, begin to plan under growth management in the very early 1990s. And now in the statute is a requirement that the county update and review its comprehensive plan and development regulations, if necessary, to ensure compliance with state law by June 30, 2025. So that's the process that is being initiated with this meeting. State law has required reviews and updates throughout the years, and I've been involved in a few of them. And it requires, when one look at the comp plan, one look at many different aspects of the comprehensive plan. And Mr. Anderson touched on some of those, and some are more specific than the things that he talked about, and those are often things that touch people right where they live. So this is a process that can be very, as I say, it can inspire some strong thoughts and feelings. And sometimes an individual or entity thinks that the county, when it's taken its actions under periodic review and update, has not complied with state law, whether procedurally or substantively. And if that is the thought, their remedy is to petition the State Growth Management Hearings Board within 60 days after notice of the adoption of the comprehensive plan and related amendments is published. Next slide, please. So they petition for review, and that review is called, next slide, please. Thank you. That review is called an appeal generally, so that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the review or the appeal. It's that process. And they can petition for review, someone who disagrees with the county action, under the Growth Management Act, the Shoreline Management Act, or the State Environmental Policy Act. And the Growth Board can hear and consider their appeal with regard to any of those sorts of things. So the petitioner can be a person, can be the state, a county, or a city that plans under GMA or the Growth Management Act. It could be an individual, a partnership, a corporation, an association, state agency, other governmental subdivision, a public or a private organization, or an entity of pretty much any character at all. That's, the rule says that. As long as that person participated either orally or in writing before the county regarding the update, and the issues that they present to the Growth Board for review are related to their participation. So if you decide after you read an adopting ordinance for the county's action that you don't like what it did, but you never told the county about it while it was in the process of making the change, you don't get to complain about it afterwards. So here we have government by those who show up. If you want a say in what the county did, you have to have a say in what they were doing while they did it. So the petitioner must allege that GMA or SMA or SEPA was violated, or that the 20-year population projection from OFM should be adjusted. So that is what is involved in terms of the content of an appeal. So how does that become a complex multi-party appeal? There were, I think, 60 or so petitioners in the first, in the appeal of the county's first comp plan adoption under GMA in 1994. There were lots of parties, cities, landowners, interest groups, you name it, in the appeals of the 2004 and 2007 comp plan updates. In 2016, there were fewer, but there were a couple interest groups: Clark County Citizens United, Friends of Clark County, FutureWise, the cities of Battleground, La Center, and Ridgefield, and then a property owner of some, or various property owners as you look at it. And you can go to the next slide, please. So that all happens because the Growth Board has rules that allow it to consolidate appeals if many petitioners appeal the same action, and also allows intervention if a person or entity doesn't want to petition but does want to be involved in the dispute, have their point of view heard. They become interveners. And those interveners can either support the county's decision or they can support the petition for review. So, as I say, there have been lots of multi-party appeals. Next slide, please. That's not it. Should be on slide 5. There you go. Once a petition for review has been filed, that starts a bunch of deadlines and a bunch of procedures that are specified in the Growth Board's rules of procedure in the Washington Washington Administrative Code, and that's a WAC Chapter 240-03. So the first thing that happens in this building is that staff gets the word that an appeal has been filed, and they need to make sure that the record is all ready. As I said before, you don't get to appeal unless you have already told the county what you expected it to do. And how do we know that you've done that and what you've said? Well, it's in what we call the record, which is all the information that's in front of the county when it makes decisions on these matters. And the record can be extremely extensive. There were, I think it started out with 14,000 pages in the appeal of the 2016 comp plan. Either started or ended there, I'm not sure which, but it was a lot of paper because there was a lot of substance to it. So the county compiles the record, makes it available to the Growth Board and to all the other parties. Community planning is responsible for 90% or maybe 95% of this work, and they have worked very systematically and diligently for years, not just to do this, but to compile a system to capture, index, and then disseminate every single item in the record. Every emailed or online comment, along with every attachment thereto, every non-electronic item relevant to the update, every audio and video recording of public proceedings relevant to the update, all of the things like notices and staff reports and responses to comments that are produced by the county. All of those things are part of the record, and they are indexed. Each separate document gets its own number, and each page within each document gets a number. A record item is something that was actually submitted to the county. If a map, for example, is held up and waved around and referred to during testimony at a public hearing, not that anybody would wave anything around, but it is not handed in, the map itself is not part of the record. The picture on the video of them doing that is part of the record, but probably most of us won't be able to see the details on the map. If written comment includes a link, the link itself is part of the comment, but not the site that the link opens to. So participants, public participants who want to have something in the record need to actually give that item to the county and say, yeah, I want to put this in the record. And you will find that the incredible community planning staff working with our IT department get that in the record and make it electronically available. So the record includes material that a commenter sends to the entire council, for example, not just to community planning, but to the council or the planning commission or any one or more of those officials, even if it's not sent to staff. So each councilor and commissioner is responsible to ensure that every comment regarding the update that they receive goes to the staff person in their office, who is then responsible to send that on to planning so that it can be placed in the record. All right, next slide, please. After the record becomes available, then the briefing process starts, where first the petitioners and then all those who are responding to the petition to defend the action make their legal arguments to the Growth Board and indicate which items in the record support their arguments. So after that occurs, after the Growth Board considers any motions that might be made by a party, like a motion to dismiss a claim because the Growth Board doesn't have jurisdiction over it, or and then the Growth Board has a hearing, an actual hearing where oral argument is made and members of the Growth Board can ask questions. Then the Growth Board issues a final order. And that final order is based exclusively on whether the county is in compliance, the county's action in the periodic review and update is in compliance with GMA, SMA, or SEPA. So notice that I didn't say the 14th Amendment or 5th Amendment to the United States Constitution or any other amendment to any other constitution. Constitutional issues do not go to the Growth Board. Let's see, what else? If what you're complaining about, if what the petitioner is complaining about is not something that occurred in the periodic review and update that is the subject of the appeal, the Growth Board's not going to act on that either. That will be dismissed. So the final order is based exclusively on compliance with these laws related to the adoption or the process for adoption of the periodic review and update. It's on the record, so that's why, again, the record is so important. There is generally no testimony taken in a growth board appeal. There isn't, you don't have your depositions or interrogatories or requests for admission or any of the lovely other processes that are part of general litigation. And the final order is generally issued within 180 days from when the petition for review was filed, except that the Growth Board is allowed, in the interests of justice, to give itself an extension, which sometimes happens, but they're generally pretty darn timely. And when I've dealt with extensions, they've generally been like a week or 2 weeks. It hasn't been, we'll get around to it sometime. So that's what they do when they make a decision. That's when they do it. Next slide, please. So what's the outcome on the final order? The petition for review must specify issues, claims that the county has violated one of those laws that are under the jurisdiction of the Growth Board. And there's supposed to be a specific claim. You violated GMA when you did this. So with respect to each issue, the Growth Board either dismisses it, for example, if they have no jurisdiction over it, or the Growth Board finds in favor of the county that the county's action complied with the law, or the Growth Board finds that the county's action did not comply with the law. And if the Growth Board finds non-compliance, every petitioner always asserts that the action should be invalidated. I'm not sure that that was intended when the law was written, but it happens 100% of the time. So then the other possibility, if non-compliance is found, is that the Growth Board will make a determination on whether the action was invalid or not. And if there's any non-compliance, the Growth Board sets a 6-month schedule for the county to come into compliance and to report back on the actions that it has taken to do so. And that is why we have, for example, following the 2007 comp plan update, 7 years before the appeal was closed. Because until they find that the county has come into compliance, and that, went to Superior Court, and then for all the proceedings there, and then it went to the Court of Appeals for all the proceedings there, and then it went to the Supreme Court for all the proceedings there, and then it came back to the Growth Board, and there were a few more sets of proceedings. So 7 years. In 2014, the Growth Board issued its last order. So we should be on now slide 8. I'm sorry, next slide. What that says is the final order really isn't final. That's a misnomer, because you really get to the end of it if there is any non-compliance at all, much, 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 much later. So an order on compliance that happens after this schedule, you will now come into compliance, has the same outcomes as the initial final order did. Either it will say, yeah, you did it this time, you're in compliance, or I've seen an order on compliance dismiss an issue where the Growth Board had previously said the county was non-compliant because the Court of Appeals told them that they didn't have jurisdiction over it, or the Supreme Court. Same possible outcomes. The next slide, please. Without getting in too far, the details of specifics, there are some recurring legal issues with Growth Board appeals. First of all, a petitioner cannot appeal an action for which notice was published more than 60 days ago. They have a deadline. So the Growth Board will dismiss for lack of jurisdiction an issue claiming that the county did not comply with a Superior Court ruling from the 1990s. The Growth Board in the 2020s cannot address that. Or claiming that the comprehensive plan, whose legality was resolved in one of those compliance orders in 2014, violates the law. You can't do that. That's settled. Next slide, please. Another set of recurring issues is that there are some vague, and I would say interesting standards by which the Growth Board reviews actions and makes its decisions. First of all, there has been, since the Growth Management Act was adopted and since the very early 1990s, a presumption that the county's action is valid. No longer the case, but that has been the presumption. And based on that presumption, then the petitioner bears what we call the burden of proof. They have to make the argument that there is an actual violation of, and related to that is deference to the county's decision. The county is supposed to be the body that is most able and competent and authorized by law to make decisions regarding planning. It's not supposed to be the State Growth Management Hearings Board. And then also related is the clearly erroneous standard. The Growth Board is supposed to find compliance with the law unless they come to, this is some of my favorite wording in growth management law, the firm and definite conclusion that a mistake has been made. That's what's meant by clearly erroneous. So if they come to the firm and definite conclusion that the county violated GMA, then they can find the county non-compliant. I don't know. I've heard a lot of people who have been firmly and definitely convinced of X, while another group of people are convinced of not X. So I'm not sure what the objective meaning of a firm and definite conclusion is, but there it is in the law, and it is intended to require the petitioner before the Growth Board to actually prove that there was a violation. And then last but not least, there has been statute that says Growth Board rulings have a prospective effect, so that if something occurred before a Growth Board made its ruling, you don't just go and wipe that out. You know, what happened, happened. So this has led to some issues, all of these things. So vesting and annexation in particular have raised controversy when they've been based upon comprehensive plan amendments like the de-designation of resource lands and expansion of urban growth areas, when the Growth Board has subsequently found those actions to be non-compliant or invalid. So because of the presumption of validity and the prospective effect of the board's decisions, an applicant could vest to the standards in a non-compliant amendment by submitting a complete application before a zone had been determined non-compliant, and that application would vest. Even more significantly, during the time period when the plan amendment stripping an area's resource designation and placing it inside an urban growth boundary has been under appeal, but prior to the board's decision determining that the action was non-compliant, cities have annexed that land. And that set of actions has ended up in the Washington Supreme Court. It's been to the Court of Appeals twice. The land in question is still within the relevant cities. So that has occurred, and some people kind of resent that. Slide 8, please. I think. Yeah. So, no. There you go. Slide 11. So the folks who disagreed with the abilities to take actions in reliance on the county's decision were successful at the state legislature in 2021 and 2022. So new amendments since the last comprehensive plan update have changed the initial effective date for county actions. And just to be clear, they've changed the effective date under GMA for a county ordinance that has its own effective date under county code. Change the effective date for county actions to expand urban growth areas, de-designate resource lands, and create or expand certain rural developments, including rural centers. That's what we call LAMRDs here. Any of these actions is not effective anymore until the later of the deadline to appeal to the Growth Board, 60 days. So 60 days passes, nobody's appealed it, it's effective. But if somebody's appealed it, then you have to wait until issuance of the board's final order, 180 days later after the notice was published. And if the Growth Board rules that it's compliant and not invalid, then an application, or then that action is effective. If it doesn't, then the action may not become effective. We will have to see how this works, because that amendment occurred in 2022, and I don't believe that it has yet been through legal challenge and decision-making. A couple more amendments. Next slide, please. Mr. Anderson spoke about this. Counties are now required, rather than encouraged, to plan for and accommodate affordable housing, and affordability at different levels is defined. Counties and cities may enter into negotiations and agreements with federally recognized tribes, and the tribes may, if they volunteer, if the tribe volunteers, to collaborate and plan with the county. Next slide. And the last of the amendments, well, almost the last of the amendments that I'm going to talk about is certain urban growth boundary expansions are required in extremely limited circumstances. I don't see this particular amendment as being a solution for anything, because it doesn't allow expansion of the urban growth area, it says you have to keep the same net area inside your boundary, which means that if you add 2 acres here, you got to pull somebody else's 2 acres out. And I don't want to be the person who goes to a property owner and says, you're 2 acres, they're coming out. So I don't see that as a very practical solution. And then the last one I'll talk about, and I don't have a slide for it, is that the time schedule for periodic review and update has been changed. The next one's going to be 10 years. So the one we're starting now is 2025. The next one will be 2035 for Clark County, with a report on what's going on. I forget exactly what they call it, due after 5 years. So that is the conclusion of my presentation on Growth Board appeals.
And I would like to thank Dave and Chris. One of the first things I would like to say is that, and Chris covered it, and that is that our current plan is in compliance with the Growth Management Act. This is an overview. Go to the next slide. This is an overview of my presentation. I'll just briefly talk about background of planning in Clark County, and then briefly discuss the components of this periodic update, and then followed by anticipated next steps. Can you go to the next slide? You may have seen this map in the presentation that Mr. Anderson shared with us, but this is just a broad explanation of planning in Clark County. You know, the planning department is not new. The county in 1935, I wasn't here, but in 1935, established the first planning department in Clark County, and also established the Planning Commission. We can go back to 1961, when the county adopted the first comprehensive plan. It wasn't comprehensive in the term comprehensive. The county has urban services area and then unincorporated area. In the unincorporated area, there wasn't any zoning. It was FX, anything goes. It was not until 1979 that the county adopted the first comprehensive plan, and with designation of forest, rural estate, rural farm, you name it. And then in 1980, adopted the first zoning to implement the 1979 comp plan. That is, in a nutshell, is some of the backgrounds in planning in Clark County. Dave talked about, and Chris, in 1980, I believe the county has the first zoning to implement the 1979 plan. And with the passage of the Growth Management Act in 1990, then the Clark County, in addition to other counties that were required to fully plan, started the planning process to adopt the first growth plan consistent with the Growth Management Act. With the passage of the Growth Management Act in 1990, the county started a process which I may call a community visioning process that led to the adoption of a 50-year vision known as the Community Framework Plan, and I will talk a little bit about that, but in a nutshell, that community framework plan is a 50-year vision for the county. It is not required by the Growth Management Act. In the current plan that we have, after the introduction section, the first chapter is the community framework plan. So if you haven't had the opportunity to read our comp plan text, pick it up. The framework plan is in there. What you see here is, as I mentioned, Clark County first comprehensive plan to comply with the Growth Management Act was completed in 1994. And since 1994, the plan had been updated through the periodic review process. The current process that we are going to start now will be the 5th update after the 1994 plan that was completed. This map that I inserted here is the source is from Department of Commerce. As you can see, those counties in blue, Snohomish, King County, Pierce, and Kitsap, their plans are due December 31st of 2024. We are, along with Whatcom, Skagit, Islanders, I can go through the list. You can see where Clark County falls in. Our plan is due June 30th, 2025, and you can see the other counties, depending on the color, those that their plans are due in 2026 and 27. Some of the counties are starred, and the starred really means that some of them are planning partially and some of them are planning fully. Those that are planning partially are required to do, in some cases, critical land, and in some other cases are required to designate resource. We don't fall into that category. We, Clark County, are one of the counties required to fully plan under the Growth Management Act. Next slide, please. Continue on with what have happened since the 1994 plan. This map here, if it can be expanded, if not, leave it. The black squiggly line is the boundary that was adopted in 1994. The yellow areas are areas that was added during the 2004 update, periodic update. The orange squiggly line area are areas that was added in 2005 in terms of the urban growth boundary expansion. And then the blue, it's very hard to see, but that would be in Richfield and in the city of La Center, the two cities that their urban growth boundary were expanded. What you have here too, if you're going from east to west, and then northeast and the center and up to northwest, if you, my map is correct, I'm reading, you have Washougal, Commerce, Vancouver, Battleground in the middle, the town of Yakult, then you have Richfield and the center, and the little dot to the northwest, there is the Horseshoe Lake, which is in Clark County, but also part of the city of Woodland. The city of Woodland plans with Clark County. One of the things I would like to point out on this map is that it doesn't really show you the city limits. However, as you can see, some of the cities have not really fully absorbed areas that are within their urban growth boundary. As you hear me say often, Clark County doesn't provide water or sewer. In the case of the smaller cities, urban growth boundary can only occur when they annex those areas because they are responsible for providing sewer and water. And I will talk about more why that is the case, because that is part of the information or policy that is in our county-wide planning policy, that's how we would like the cities to grow, with the exception of the Vancouver urban growth area where Clark Regional Wastewater provides sewer. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to focus on the component for this plan update. Next slide, and I put in here 2025. Let me also indicate that I have reached out to the cities. We meet on a monthly basis, and they are on board with us starting in 2025, using 2025 as our base year. So our plan would be 2025 to 2045, making it 20 years. They're on board with us starting in 2025. The reason for that is that we have been criticized and appealed in the past for the reason that depending on when we start, we have to account for the growth that have occurred in between. So I want to avoid that mistake again. So we're going to use 2025 as our base year. We have the information and then go to 20 years out. On this slide, what I'm sharing with you here is one of those things that we are required by statute to complete. It's more of a reminder that Clark County is required, not only Clark County, but Clark County is required among other counties because we are a buildable lands county. We are required to submit our buildable lands to the state 3 years before the start of our plan update. So this was submitted to the Department of Commerce. We received funding to complete this work, and I sincerely thank Department of Commerce and Dave and his staff in particular. This was submitted to the state in June, so we can check this off. We can begin the conversation of talking about update to the periodic review because this has been completed. And this report really says it all. It is how we evaluate whether we have sufficient suitable land within the existing urban growth area to accommodate not future but the current 20-year forecast for residential, commercial, and industrial land. So the report was based on the existing urban growth boundary that goes out to 2035. Next slide. One of the first things we have to do is to prepare a public participation plan that the county and the public are going to be reviewing. And in addition to that, we are going to be preparing a scope of work. The public participation plan provides members of the public opportunities for early and continuing participation and access to key decision-making processes. The Growth Management Act requires early and continuous participation of the public. So this is a provision, if adopted by the council, meets that requirement. So we are going to be preparing a public participation plan, and we will have a hearing for our council to review that and approve that. And then we will also prepare a resolution acknowledging that that has been done. That public participation plan will include preliminary scope of work for how we are going to complete the periodic review. Next slide, please. I'm not going to repeat some of the information that Mr. Anderson shared with you, but I think what I will say on this slide is that it is the first selection of a population is the first input in the project, and that population selection is going to be the responsibility, one of the responsibility of Clark County Council. However, the selection of the population requires that the cities pay a particular participate in that selection process. There are going to be multiple stakeholders, but our council needs to listen to our city partners before selecting a population number. Hence, a population is selected. I'm assuming, and I can only assume, that our council will maintain the 1-to-1 ratio in terms of job-housing balance. If they do, I will take the population selected and provide that to Scott Bailey, who some of you know. Scott Bailey is the regional economist for Department of Employment Security. The state do not provide us employment number. So what we have done in the past and what we are going to do is use the population. If the council maintains the 1-to-1 ratio in terms of job housing balance, that will be the basis for Scott to let us know what the employment number we have to plan for is. And with those two numbers, then we will engage our city partners to do the allocation process. And we usually start with using the vacant buildable lands model to do our allocation. First, determining if we have capacity, and if we have capacity, how many folks that we are planning for could be accommodated within the existing urban growth boundary. And then if we don't have sufficient land or sufficient room to accommodate that, that's when conversation begins on what area needs to come in, or what area or how many acres can we be added to the urban growth boundary, not only for rooftop, also for jobs. I inserted this graph here, and Dave also did in his presentation. This is the current 2022 OFM projections, and as Dave indicated, what we have, or what OFM provides us, is a range: low, medium, and high. I don't have the specific numbers here to provide. I don't want to bore you with numbers, but I provided the link. You can go there and see for yourself what the low range is, what the medium is, and what the high is. And staff in my shop and myself will be preparing what I call a white paper or issue paper on population, which will include a thorough analysis of where we have been and how accurate or close the OFM medium numbers have been. You can go back to 2000, can go back to their forecast in 2002, and you will see that they have been very good in predicting where we will fall. And the medium is always been the likely. That's why you see the solid line. That goes back to 1990. And you can see from 1990 up to where we are now in 2022, they have tracked very well with the medium number. That's what that solid line is. Then the dotted lines are their current forecast. The medium number is the dotted red line, and then the dotted black line below that red dotted line is this low series, and the black dotted line on top of that is your high series numbers. That's how to look at this graph. But this is now available on the OFM website. They also provide us 5-year intervals, if you want to look at the 5-year intervals, and they also provide us yearly, so you can see what they're forecasting every year going forward. And it's from this number that we then, depending on what number the council chooses, that we look at what the annual growth rate will be over the 20-year planning horizon. Next slide, please. Mr. Anderson also talked about county-wide planning policy. The only thing I can say here is that if you look at our current plan document, look at each element or chapter, you will find county-wide planning policies on each of the elements that are in the comp plan. Land use, you will find a county-wide planning policy. on housing, transportation, you name it. And this is our county-wide planning policies, as they've indicated, is policies that talks about coordination and collaboration on how we plan together with our city partners on issues relating to housing, urban growth boundary, regional transportation matters, and other issues of regional significance. That's where we put in and agree on the county-wide planning policies. The county-wide planning policies is not limited to the county. The cities all have to adopt that in their own individual plans. Next slide. As, if I can call him Dave, as Dave discussed in his presentation, one of the things we have to do also is to submit to the state our checklist. And now, I don't know why, Dave, maybe we'll talk about this during question and answers. There are two. One is a general checklist, and one is dealing with critical area. So I am working with staff to update those two. But this we have to complete and submit to the state. I'm going to be sharing with our council when we have that, and I think we have our legal counsel here. We may share this with her and have her review it and make sure this is where we try to capture any new legislation that have come through. If we don't have any policy or development regulation to address that, we have to identify that we are going to do so as we go through this periodic review. It's a must. Next slide, please. And as was discussed earlier by Mr. Anderson, one of the things we have to be doing with staff is remember that we are not starting from scratch. I have to continue to emphasize that this is not new. While I am talking about what the Clark County will do, each of the cities will be doing the same thing parallel to what we are doing. Where we have to have a joint open houses or whatever with our local cities, we will do that, but they will be doing the same, going through the same parallel that we are. We are going to be reviewing each of the elements that are in our comprehensive plan, whether it's land use, whether it's housing, whether it's a rural element. We are going to be reviewing that and our development regulations as well, to determine what type of changes needs to be made. Some may be related to new laws, some may be related to changes we have made. I'll use an example. We just recently updated our ADU, accessory dwelling unit. I know that the legislature is also talking about new laws. I don't know whether that will be come out before the completion of the plan, but any new rules, this is where we are going to be reviewing our current plan text, and then determining what type of revisions that needs to be made, and make sure that we are making those revisions. One of the areas that Dave also highlighted in his presentation is the new House Bill 1220, which requires revision to the housing element of the comprehensive plan. One of the things I would like to point out is that in choosing population, and this is not to it's more of a reminder that the population number that the council chooses we will use that in considering the number of housing units we are going to build in Clark County based on each of those average median income ranges. So we have to be mindful about that. Next slide. Both Chris and Dave talked about State Environmental Policy Review Act. Depending on the scenarios that we are going to be reviewing, we have to do the environmental assessment of each of the scenarios. One of the things I want to point out here is that I talked about consistency and collaboration with our city partners, at the end of the day, our plans has to be internally consistent with our local jurisdiction plans. And when we do the SIPA review, we are not only doing that SIPA review on Clark County plan, we are doing it for all the 7 cities in Clark County. I know I saw some of my city counterpart here. They don't give me money to do it. I go to the council, I said, here is our responsibility because the plan is being submitted to us. We are responsible for doing the SIPA. And you can see here, it says final environmental impacts for the growth management plan of Clark County and all the cities listed. So Clark County is responsible for doing the environmental impact assessment. Next slide, and it's required, we can't avoid it. By the time we get to our preferred alternative scenario, we have to do an analysis to show or develop capital facilities plan showing how we are going to pay for the projects that are identified to support the plan. That's where our capital facilities plan, and it's not limited to transportation. I listed all here. Schools will do their own. Clark Regional assist staff from Clark Regional, they will assess how the plan will meet their own ability to serve. So Clark Regional will be doing the same review on the ability to serve. We have transportation there, parks, fire, including law enforcement. And the second piece here, and before I leave the capital facilities plan, we will also be reviewing, Clark County will also be reviewing the capital facilities plan submitted by cities, also showing how they're going to be able to pay and afford the plan that they're submitting to the county. So it's not only us reviewing our capital facilities plan on our own project or facilities, we, county staff, are responsible for reviewing the land use submitted by cities as well as the associated capital facilities plan. The second is the capital financial facilities plan. This one is unique to Clark County. This is where we, county, has to prepare the financing plan. This is where we have to be able to show the funding sources and how we are going to pay for to support the plan. Here we can identify traffic impact fees, for example, and grants and other forces of funding to help pay for the project, particularly in the first 6 years of the plan. Any project that is not in the capital facilities financial plan, the county can't pay for it or can't support it. If we are audited, this is where we go to justify that funding of that project is in this actual plan. And the final thing that we do here, sometimes people say, Oliver, what you do in your plan is just put a line on the map. We have to be able to update our arterial atlas showing future roads and what type of classification, whether it's going to be 2 lanes, 4 lanes to support the land use. We have to also update our arterial atlas map. Next slide, please. Let me quickly, because I know we are running late, let me quickly just talk about anticipated steps for in 2023. This is just a highlight of what I think we might be able to accomplish by 2023. Beginning today, but from now until, I would say, and this date may slip, don't hold me to it. By February, we should be able to have our public participation plan completed and approved by council sometime in March, because we have to present it to the Planning Commission, share it with the public, have them provide input. Do we get it right? And that will be before our council hearing sometime in March. I have been going through my staff on this schedule to see whether we can be able to meet this timeline. I tell my staff that when we start this process, everyone is involved, and hopefully we'll be able to get this accomplished in this year. I have March, April. Hopefully the council will pick a population by then. And if you do, hopefully before summer or late summer or midsummer, we will have the employment projection out of Employment Security Department. If we have that, hopefully we may start the population and employment allocation by fall of 2023. Next slide. I'm not going to bore you with this. This is just an overview of the scope of work. I call it preliminary scope of work. You may ask, why does this take 3 years or 4 years to complete? It is very, very intensive and involve a lot of stakeholders that we want to hear from, and they will have a lot to offer before a final decision is made. So this is just a very quick project initiation all the way to adoption. You can read this on your own. I think it's on the handout. I want to reserve some time for question and answers. Thank you so much. I think that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. We're going to move to questions and answers, and we have a plan for that today. We want to start with county councilors to ask questions. We're going to start, as you may know or not know, we are hybrid, so we have participants online as well as participants in the room. We're going to start with our county councilors that are online, and I know we have two, so I'm going to start to see if Chair Bowerman has any questions. Chair Bowerman?
I always have questions. Thank you so much. And I suppose this one would be directed mostly to Oliver, but maybe others. You said that you would add the income data to the housing accessibility this time around, which is certainly makes a lot of sense to do that. And that determines then how much housing of what type is added. So what data do we use on population per income group? I'm wondering if that is in the OFM now. Because I recollect the OFM having been in the past at just aggregate numbers. So I'm wondering if now it's broken down.
Yeah, Commerce has developed some breakdowns based on the information that we have. So we've hired a consultant, and they've produced a breakdown that you can use as a starting point for that process.
Good. And is that proportional, is that proportional to what had been in the past, those rates per group?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, easy enough. Thank you.
Councillor, this is Oliver. I don't have anything to add. I think we are going to rely on the information coming out of Commerce. I think what I wanted to communicate was that the population number that we pick, I think Commerce will be providing us a worksheet that we are going to insert that number, and the total number of units we have to plan for will be shown. And then we will be the one with the series determining what type of unit that we are going to provide that fall within the AMI average median income ranges. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and Chair Bowerman, if you think of any other questions while we go along, just feel free to raise your hand and we'll make sure we circle back to you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, now, Counselor Young, do you have any questions online?
It actually looks like Councillor Young just dropped off, so he is no longer online that I can see.
Okay, let us know if he returns, and we'll circle back.
Sorry, he is back. He must have dropped off and come back. 1 minute. Okay, Councillor Young, you should be able to unmute yourself now if you do have a question.
Yes, thank you. I don't know what's happened with my camera, but it doesn't matter. I was really curious, and I appreciate the presentation. It was very informing. If possible, I would love to see, Oliver, the graph that you had presented, but if we could get little dots for what the projected populations were from the OFM for each time period that the projections were made compared to what actually materialized over time.
Yes, Councillor, I will be. I can provide you that. What I said as well is that staff typically provide what I call issue papers or white papers that really provide data and analysis and facts on what our experience have been with OFM projections. I will provide you this graph. You can see their forecast from now until 2050. That is the latest projection that we have. And when we do the white paper or the issue paper, we will have more information to provide that look back. And I think what I was getting at there was, and I think Dave also mentioned that, how accurate the OFM medium forecasts have matched our experiences, not only Clark County, but other counties that they do forecasting for.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And again, Counselor Young, if you as well have a question that comes to mind, just raise your hand and we'll circle back. Okay, now we're going to do Counselor Marshall. We're going to go ahead. Yes, come to the stand there.
Great. Thank you so much. I don't have a specific question, but I do want to thank the Department of Commerce, Oliver and Chris, and all of the staff really for putting this presentation together on behalf of the council and really the community. It's a very complex and lengthy process, and I know I'll be looking at this video again, and it'll serve the community really well, so thank you all.
Thank you. Now we are going to open it up for any city councilors that we may have online. So if you are, Larissa, if you could show the how to participate just in case people need a refresher. So those of you online, if you are on your computer or tablet, you can raise your hand by clicking on the participant button, and you see the hand icon. And if you're calling via phone, you press *3, and we'll go ahead and see if we have any city councilors online that would have a question.
None yet, but I'll wait a moment. It can take a minute to find the hand. Okay, I'm not seeing any right now, but again, if you find the hand or think of a question, there'll be an opportunity coming down the line.
Thanks, Jenna. Keep me posted. Now, do we have any city councilors in the audience here in person that have a question? Okay, I'm not seeing any. We'll now see if we have any planning commissioners, so any county planning commissioners or city planning commissioners online that have a question. Please raise your hand now.
I'm not seeing any hands.
Thanks, Jenna. Do we have any planning commissioners in the audience that have any questions? I know we have at least one, but I'm not going to pressure him to ask a question. But if there are any, please feel free to come up to the mic.
So Oliver, the Planning Commission is going to be meeting, is supposed to, according to your plan, on the public participation plan. Are you feeling pretty confident about that? That's only a couple weeks away.
Do you want me to answer that, Oliver? I'm working on it, so I'm happy to answer that. Yes, we hope to, our plan is to launch it out to the public next week and have a couple weeks for public feedback and comment to give us suggestions and feedback on that draft. And then we'll move towards talking to the Planning Commission, our county planning commission about it and get their feedback, and then to the county council for work session and hearing. We hope to do that, get that all complete by March.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Walden, remember, I said, don't hold me to the timeline. I'll do my best. Our goal is to get it out as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Oliver. Okay, now we're going to move to members of the public that may have a question. And like we did before, we're going to go ahead and start our first with those online. Members of the public, for those that have a question, please raise your hand.
I do not see any hands raised.
Thank you, Jenna. How about in the room here? Any questions from the audience? Yes, ma'am. Yes, with the green jacket, come on up.
I want to echo what our councilperson Sue Marshall said, in that we really appreciate the county providing this information for us. For those of us that represent organizations within the county that look at what's going on in the county, I think some of us are really interested in the environmental impacts and in transportation and what kind of funding is available for projects that are already in the works. So I guess my question is kind of a clarification and kind of going along with you said, in that what influence will the public have, since the public participation piece is important, and what will the makeup of that public participation be? Will it be representative of everyone, and what will that process be? So thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you for your question. This is one area where we really try to encourage the public to follow the process, to participate and be part of the process. We will reach out and we will make ourselves available to any organization that invites us to come meet with them. And my staff, we've done this in the past. Any organization that invites us, we will be there. When, as Jackie indicated, we will be sending out, I'm not sure whether we'll do a press release, but we will send it, we'll be sending, if we do a press release, we will provide a link where the draft PPP is at, so that the public will have opportunity to review that and provide us input before we even start conversation or presenting it to our planning commission, and then finally the council adopting it. But throughout this process, from the beginning to the end, we encourage public participation, because the council will not make the final decision until they hear from you. And as Chris indicated before, comments whether written, particularly written, if we have a copy of it, will be made available to the Planning Commission and our council before they make the final decision. I think Chris wanted to say something, so I'll turn it over to Chris.
I can speak to this because this was a subject of the last comprehensive plan appeal. There were public participation, the ability to participate was an issue, and as a result, I had the fine opportunity to go through the 14,000-page record and determine how many different folks and organizations had participated, in some cases, how many times. Let me tell you, there were hundreds of participants. This is not something where there's a, 12-member task force that meets in a room and nobody else can talk. If you want to be heard regarding the comprehensive plan changes, pay attention to what is posted on the Community Planning's Project website, which you can get to from the council, from the county website. Pay attention if you're one of the organizations or individuals that is on the electronic mailing list, and I don't know how many recipients are on that mailing list, but those things go out very regularly. Pay attention to any other notice of a public procedure that you might see. And if somehow you haven't seen or received any of those things, comment anyway. Send it to the Clark County Council. They'll get it. They will have seen it, and then they'll send it on to staff. It will become part of the record. If you want to be a part, be a part.
Thank you, Chris. Any other members of the public in the audience? Yes, come on. Come on down.
First of all, I'd just like to reiterate what Councilor Marshall said and also what Teresa said, and thanks to you and your staffs for an excellent job. Always informative. Oliver, I think it was in your slide set that I saw a reference in a couple of cases to the vision of Clark County. Where do we find that vision?
We have a standalone community framework plan, which you can get to on our website. Secondly, the current plan document, which is also on our website. If you have access to it, after the introduction, the first chapter is the community framework plan. That is the 50-year vision that the county adopted in 1993. So those are the two spots where you can find it. And if you send me your email, I can forward it to you. The standalone document, I can forward it to you. That I promise. Thank you.
Any other questions in the audience? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Jenna, how about online?
No hands online.
Okay. All right, well, I'm going to turn it back over to Oliver. You should have just probably stayed here. And for closing.
Okay, thank you. Let me also quickly thank the county manager, Kathleen Otto. By the county charter, she's the one who is supposed to be submitting the completed comprehensive plan to the council. I will be working with her to make sure that that is done. My staff will be working with her to make sure that is done. I want to thank my staff, for all the logistics. Thank you very much. I would like to sincerely thank Mr. Dave Anderson, the Managing Director at Department of Commerce. When I gave him a call, he said, "Oh, you name it, I'll come." Greatly appreciated. Thank you for being here. Catherine, we've talked. You represent Southwest Washington section. We come to you if we have technical issues to address. You have been there. Thank you very much. And Ted, you just now with Commerce. I know who to call. So thank you for being here. I also want to sincerely thank the council, Councilor Marshall, who is here, and the two councilors and all the councilors that participated online. Thank you. I'm going to need all your support. And the public is going to listen to you. And to the public, I also want to thank you for coming. This is a very long, tedious. I want to greatly thank our legal counsel. We couldn't be doing what we are doing without our legal counsel and the support of the chief. Leslie, Chief Civil. Leslie, thank you so much. Sitting behind me, they gave me comfort. So thank you for your support. And everyone that is here, I see some of my colleagues, Brian from the city of Vancouver, the planning commissioners that attended, and former community development director. Thank you, all of you. And those that are online, I cannot thank you enough. This is the beginning of the process, not the end. We will get there June on or before June 30th, 2025. So there's going to be a lot of conversations. This is just the beginning. Thank you all for coming.